How are you doing this fine day whenever you happen to be watching this episode? This is Simulation Gaming Digital Realities and my tutorial series for OOTP Perfect Team. This is already episode 9 of a 10-part series. If you haven't seen the first episodes, please go back and watch them first. Those will show you how you can get started in Perfect Team, opening your first packs, building your first lineup, getting into the entry pool, how you can accumulate perfect points and free packs of cards to build your team, showing you the card shop and the different missions that you can complete to improve your team. All of that is in the first 8 episodes. I am a free to pay player this year, and I do not spend money to buy packs. I do not spend money to buy perfect points. You are most welcome to, and I'm sure OOTP would appreciate that. But I really enjoy playing the game and challenging myself to build a team without simply buying the players with money. You can see that the team I have used for this series, the Gym Unknown Blue Jays, is doing really well. They're 68 and 26 in the Rookie League. And again, that's without buying anything with real money, except the game, of course. I have played OOTP since version 11, 12 years ago. And I do not want you to think that I'm an expert in the game. By no means do I think I know everything there is to know about this game. I just go off the feel and my experience with the game over the last 12 years. There are many people out there who crunch numbers and very statistical and data driven that come up with their own conclusions on improving gameplay. I just go off of the last 12 years. And it's worked pretty well. My Rocky Mountain Gladiator series, the team is in Diamond. Last I checked, we were in first place in our division, and we have won Gold Championship already in Perfect Team 23. As you can see, the Gym Unknown Blue Jays are first in a lot of batting categories. Again, we're doing extremely well. We're last in stolen bases. And that's because I've employed a real conservative running game. Because the game so far is a little bit broken this year. A lot of runners, whether they're base stealers or just running from first to second on a hit, are getting thrown out a lot, more than in previous versions of the game. So I've decided to be real conservative with my gameplay. Now, there's a cost to that. The cost is I don't steal a lot of bases. 15th place. The benefit is I don't get thrown out all the time trying to steal bases. So it's kind of a give and take. And you have to kind of find that balance. Do you want to have a really strong offensive team, but not steal a lot of bases? Or do you want to kind of balance this out? So that's where we are. We can see in the pitching categories, we're doing really well. Defensive efficiency, which I'm going to talk about in this episode, and zone rating are a little bit down, but otherwise the Rocky Mountain Gladiators are on a good path this season. Okay, what do you need to know now? If you've watched the last 8 episodes, I have focused on lineup building, which missions you should complete first, what type of players that you should put into the lineup, and team sliders and individual sliders. Now I want to go through more with the nuances of the game. Once you get past the silver level, remember that you are competing in a universe from the bottom, hopefully to the top. And as you get higher up the levels, it gets tougher. The Rookie and Stone and Iron are very easy to do well with the right players. once you start getting to bronze and silver and gold, you're going to have to pay more attention to the sliders. And so this part of the tutorial series is to teach you some of the nuances to improve your gameplay, your defensive efficiency, your zone rating, even a little bit more. So let's start with pitching. With your pitchers, you have to really understand their pitching tendencies. For example, Kevin Brown is an extreme ground ball pitcher. That means most of the batters that he faces, they will hit the ball on the ground into the infield. Okay, great. Now how can you use that to improve your team? If you have a lot of ground ball pitchers, let's say that 4 of your 5 starters are either ground ball or extreme ground ball, then what you need to do is make sure your infield, who are going to be the recipients of these ground balls, make sure they have strong defensive ratings. And the 2 that I would recommend are infield range into the blue and second base, their position into the blue. I don't really focus on these other ones. They're not as important. They still are, but the most important is that infield range. So that when Kevin Brown pitches and the balls hit on the ground, their range is good enough to make sure that they can get that ball. So Donnie Bush at shortstop into the blue, pretty good. Shortstop rating, he's going to be able to get to most of the balls that Kevin Brown pitches that come his way. So if you have a strong second base, third base, shortstop with their defense into the blue, Boog Powell, okay, his range isn't that great, but he can play first base. If you have all your infield in the blue for their range and their position, Kevin Brown is going to win more games because he's got a good infield behind him. And then that's going to improve your defensive efficiency and your zone rating because you have most ground ball pitchers and a really good infield. So now think the opposite. Let's say you have a lot of fly ball or extreme fly ball pitchers, like a Vida Blue. When he pitches the ball, a lot of the hitters are going to hit it into the air, likely to the outfield. So now you have to make sure that your outfielders have good range and blue in terms of their position. You want them to be able to get to the ball that Vida Blue has just pitched. Right? Makes sense. So someone like Darryl Strawberry is not really ideal for a fly ball pitcher. Someone like Minnie Minoso, he's okay, but again, not really ideal for a fly ball pitcher. In fact, maybe this guy, Dode Paskert, is a good option for a Vida Blue because he's got really good center field and left field ability, and he's got really good range. So this is a guy that you want in your outfield for your fly ball pitchers. So even if you don't have a full team of one or the other, you can adjust your lineup. Let's say that Vida Blue is pitching and you go into your lineup and you say, okay, I want to make sure I have good outfielders in the games that he's pitching. So you adjust your lineup. Kevin Brown pitches, you say, okay, I got to make sure I have my really good infielders in the game. You might sacrifice a little bit of offense because it's really tough to find really good defensive and offensive players. But if you have a mix on your team, you can move them in and out of the lineup based on the type of pitching that you have. If you have a lot of neutral, then really you need a good combination of solid outfielders and infielders. But what I find, a lot of the really good managers will have 4 out of 5 starting pitchers as all ground ball or all fly ball. And then they will find really good defenders for either the infield or the outfield. And then whichever one you have a really good defense for. So let's say that you have a team full of Kevin Browns, ground ball pitchers. So that means build a really good infield. Your outfield's not as important for defense. So now you can stack your outfield with your power guys, your offensive guys. Your infielders don't have to be the best hitters. Your outfielders stack it. Or the opposite, if you have a team full of players like Vida Blue, fly ball pitchers, in the outfield have really good defenders, and in the infield have really good hitters. Hope that makes sense. Next, the other nuance I kind of want to focus on is the hit and run. This is a little tricky one because hit and run is used in baseball, of course, and it can help generate runs and avoid double plays. Like I said, this version of the game, as I said in previous episodes, the running is a little bit broken. Runners get thrown out a lot. Now on Monday again, they are introducing a patch for the game, which is supposed to help runners achieve more success. So right now in the game, your cool Papa Bell is stealing close to 100 bases, whereas your average base runners are getting thrown out 60% of the time. They're going to patch the game so that cool Papa Bell is toned down a little bit and your average runners are boosted up a little bit. So that will affect your sliders after Monday, but we'll see how it goes once they introduce the patch. Because sometimes patches fix things and sometimes they fix some things and break other things. So we have to actually see once that patch comes out. But I want to kind of give you a few of my tips about hitting and running. Remember, once you get up to gold and diamond, this becomes more important. So let's look at, let's say, George Kell. George Kell is a line drive hitter. Do you want him hitting and running as a line drive hitter? Personally, I don't. Because what that means is when my runner's on the move, he hits the ball, line drive to second base, easy double play. I don't want him hitting into double plays because he's a line drive hitter. So I'm going to make sure his hit and run is either at the very left side or one notch up. Because yeah, he's not an ideal hit and run guy. However, if we look at someone like Donnie Bush again, he's a ground ball hitter. Now, if I take the hit and run off of him and he's not hit and running, he's probably going to hit into a lot of double plays as a ground ball hitter if they have a good defense. So I do want to use hit and run with him. So under strategy, I boost up the hit and run so that when he hits the ball, less likely chance of a double play because the runner has moved off of first already. Now, the other thing is you got to make sure of contact. His contact isn't the best. So when you hit and run with Donnie Bush, he might swing and miss at a lot of the pitches compared to someone with a high contact. So someone like Wade Boggs, he's not a line drive hitter, which is good. He's not a ground ball hitter, which is good. Contact is fairly strong. So you know when you use hit and run with him, he's more likely to make contact with the ball. So, yep, I want him hitting and running because I know he's probably not going to swing and miss. So he hits the ball, not a line drive guy, so I don't have to worry about the double play much. Not a ground ball guy. So likely that the guy taking off from first base doesn't get caught in a double play. The only other thing that I would mention about hit and run is that when you're using the hit and run, make sure that you set your team strategy kind of to the average that you want it used. So let's say I want to use it a little bit. Make sure you do that first and then go into your players and adjust them one by one. And what it will do, it'll kind of take the average, keep it on adjust to team strategies. So it's still going to say, hey, we're going to use this as the hit and run indicator, but we're also going to consider the individual hit and run and try and find something kind of in between. Don't override team strategies. You might run into more difficulties that way. All right, so there's a little bit of tutorial advice on how you can improve your defensive efficiency, your zone rating, your stolen bases, how you can utilize hit and run a little bit more effectively, and hopefully at some point dominate your league, especially as a new player in the lower levels. Thanks so much for those of you leaving comments and watching the series. And with only one more episode in this tutorial series left, please, if you have any other questions, if there's anything that you want me to, address and give you advice on, like I said, I'm not the one all and be all OOTP expert. I just go off of what works for me, and hopefully it translates to you having a better team. Remember that if you're just starting out, once you have your lineup and you're about to go into a Sunday playoff series, once you're eliminated from that playoff series, you want to customize your ballpark based on the lineup that you have. If you have all right-handed hitters or a majority of them, you want to boost up the right-handed batters. If you have a lot of left-handed hitters, like I do, boost up the left-handed batters. Create a ballpark that helps out your players when they're hitting at home. And that's part of the reason why I've had success in the rookie league, because I have a lefty-favored ballpark. So a lot of my pitchers are left-handed pitchers, and a lot of my batters are left-handed batters. Not all of them, but a lot of the better ones. And when we look at the batting stats, again, we've got Joe Morgan, left-handed batter, 317. Wade Boggs, left-handed batter, 342 average. Richie Ashburn, 275. War-wise, again, Larry Walker, Willie McCovey, Darryl Strawberry, Mickey Tettleton, Joe Morgan. So here we have, of the top 6 guys, 5 of them are left-handed batters or switch hitters. Suit your players around a ballpark that's going to benefit them the most. Again, customize your ballpark. You can only do this on Sundays once you're eliminated out of the playoffs. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. One more episode to come in a couple days, and then you're on your own. But I always welcome questions on any episode, any series of mine. Please go back and watch the Gladiator series, a fun series to do. Have a wonderful day, and yes, it is a great day for baseball. Share this out, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next episode.